today's video is going to be my February reading wrap up. Finally, we're filming this. I really have no excuse on as to why it took me longer to film it this month, because we're now 6 days into March, but also like nobody watches my videos anyway, so I don't know why I get so upset. I'm basically talking to myself anyway, and a lot more people watch my TikTok wrap ups as opposed to my YouTube wrap ups, but we still do them every month. I love filming them, so whatever, who cares? So for February, we read 21 books this month. I read 21 books this month, which is insane. Hold on. Okay, I'm putting it on Do Not Disturb because, again, as soon as, I don't know why we're just going to do it for 1 hour. Okay, cool. So anyway, I don't know why, the update changed it where you can't just do Not Disturb. Now you have to put it on like a certain time. So it's just so stupid. But anyway, we read 21 books in February. We got to a lot of the books that I wanted to read on my February TBR. I think we only didn't get to like 2 of them, which is great. But one is because I read 2 books that I didn't plan on reading in February, but it's because I went to both of these authors' book signings in Huntington, which was really, really cool. So I really wanted to read their books, and I'd never read any of their books before that. So anyway, let's go ahead and talk about the books that we read. And I read a lot of good books this month. There wasn't really that many like 2-star books. I don't think I rated anything lower than a 3 in February. So I think we had a better reading month in February as opposed to January, because I think I had one, maybe it was, I don't think I had a 2-star read in February. Yeah, we read some really good books in February. There was only like one that was kind of mid, but besides that, or 2, there was only 2 3-stars and the rest were all 4 and above. So I read some great books in February. So let's start off with the series that I've been putting off for so freaking long, and I put it on my February TBR, and I was like, if I don't read this series in February, it's just like not going to happen, because I've been putting it off for 2 years at this point, because I have owned this series since February of 2024, and that is Red Queen by Victoria Aveyard. So we read the first book, the second book, and the third book. So the first one is Red Queen. The second one is Glass Sword. And the third one is King's Cage. So we read all 3 of them. And then we kind of took a little break, but I'll explain why I didn't go into the 4th book right away. And basically, I feel like these books just kind of blurred together. I gave them all 4 stars, though, because I thought that they were really fun. I had a really good time reading them, but I felt like it was a little bit repetitive throughout, like, that I couldn't really tell the difference between the first book, the second book, and the third book at that point. Basically, it's about a girl. Her name is Mare, and she is a red, and the silvers are the elites of the society, and she wants to obviously take down the silver elite so she can make the life for her and her family, her siblings, and her friends better for her and the reds that she obviously loves. And there is a villain named, I forgot his name already, Maven. And Maven is Cal's brother. And Cal is, I don't remember if he's a red or a silver. So basically Cal, she can't really trust him at first, but he basically helps her to build the rebellion to take down the elites. But she constantly questions his loyalty, because he does a couple things that, betray her a little bit. But in the end, he ends up being with her. because it's kind of like an enemies to lovers, but also it's a very, very, very slow burn romance subplot, because this is a more of like a political fantasy YA. It's not romantasy. So they don't get together until the fourth book, and I'm like, oh my god, finally. But like, also, I can read fantasy books no problem, but when it gets a little bit, but I thought that these books were so well written though, and I do think it was way better than Powerless. So, but I just feel like for me to have more interest in this plot, I felt like they could have gotten together a little bit sooner. But also, there were multiple reasons as to why they couldn't. So, anyway, Maven is Cal's brother. And he, again, has very many reasons as to why he is the way he is. And he actually was my favorite character in the whole series, because I thought he was so multidimensional, and there was a lot of reasons why he hated Cal, and also kind of love-hated Mare. So he captured, I'm just going to talk about all of them at the same time, and then the last book I remember a lot more, because the first two books were from Mare's perspective, and then the third book was from 3 different female perspectives, including Mare. So there was like I'll explain that when we get to the third book, but basically Maven captures Mare at one point, and Maven has never really been, loved. It's always like in, fantasy books are usually where the villain is usually never loved the way that they should be when they're growing up, and that scars them, when they get older. But honestly, it makes sense. But then also, we kind of like started developing, feelings for Maven and understanding where he really comes from. And also we got Cal's perspective in the third book as well. And that's when I got, was it the third book, or maybe it wasn't until the fourth one? That's when I got really, really interested in the series, because there was some points where I wasn't really paying attention. But again, I gave them all 4 stars. So that's basically what it's about. I really liked them, but I wouldn't say like, oh my god, I'm like obsessed with this series, because but I'm really glad that I read them. So for the third book, why isn't it? That's weird. It's not going down more. Yeah, so she gets captured in the third book. But there's 2 other female perspectives that we get in the books that is pretty important to the overall plot. King's Cage. Iris and Diana. Iris is the Lakeland princess, and Diana Farley. So, actually, I think it was Iris and Evangeline. Evangeline is a silver magnetically powered character who becomes a central POV character, showing complexity beyond her initial pursuit of power. And then Iris is a Lakeland princess engaged to Maven, described as straightforward but mean-spirited. So she's engaged to Maven, but she loves a woman. And she hates Maven, but she also tries to... Wait, is she engaged to Maven, or is it somebody else? Maybe it was Evangeline. I think it was Evangeline. Iris is a princess, but it says engaged to Maven. Maybe it was Evangeline that was in love with another woman, but I could have sworn it was who was marrying Maven, and also she was siding with Maven, so she could hold on to her power, but I can't remember if that was Evangeline or Iris. So that's basically what happened in the third book. And then I took a break from it. So that's basically it. Those are all my thoughts on the series. It was still really good, but I do have a full vlog coming where I go into it a lot more, so I don't really have to describe every single book. You can just see all my thoughts in that video of what's going on, because honestly, I kind of forget a little bit. I might go back and be like, oh, that's what happened. So we'll see. So anyway, I took a little break because I was feeling a little bit reading slumpy, and I was like, I don't know if I really. I still like got a a quarter into War Storm. I think I got up to almost page 200 the next day, and then I was like, I really don't feel like reading this right now, so I decided to pick up a thriller instead. And this one was on my TBR for February. So I've been doing better with reading thrillers. At the beginning of this year, I've been pretty much reading 2 a month, and this was the first one that was on my TBR for February, and that is A Killing Cold by Kate Alice Marshall. This was really good. I really liked this. I gave this a 4-star. So basically, this is about a girl named Theodora, and she's engaged to this guy named Connor, and Connor is a very wealthy man that has a very wealthy family. And they have like this huge house in like the mountains. So he takes her to this mountain like estate. There's like multiple houses and cabins and stuff there. But it's away from the town, and there's no policemen. And there's only like one guard that guards, you know, everything that goes on the grounds of the mountains of where this residence is. And basically, Theodora gets engaged to Connor because she needs to marry somebody rich, because she has her own like messed up past. But also, she thinks that Connor is connected some way, or her family is connected to something that happened in her past to her mother. So that's all I'm going to say, because I feel like if I say any more, but I remember mostly what happened in this book because it was a thriller. Thrillers are honestly a lot more memorable than other books because, you know, you're just so engaged in the plot and you want to know what the fuck happens. And I finished this in a day. And it was really good. I really enjoyed it. So yeah, that's really it. That's all I'm going to say because I don't really want to give anything else away. But I really liked it. It was really good. And I think it's worth the hype. Okay. And then next up, I read the first book for the author signing that I went to. So I got to meet the author of The Baby Dragon Cafe by A.T. Qureshi. And I decided to read The Baby Dragon Cafe, which is the first book in the series, because I really wanted to read it before we went to the signing. And I just thought it was so cool. And it was also with one of my favorite authors, Kate Jacobs. I met her at Comic-Con, and she was hosting the the Q&A with Amna Qureshi for her new book. So it was for the third book in the Baby Dragon Cafe series, which is The Baby Dragon Bookshop. I haven't read it yet. I've only read the first one. I'll probably read the other two throughout the year. Like, it's not something that I needed to binge right away. I just wanted to read this book. And honestly, this was so freaking cute. I don't really understand why people get upset about this little cozy, cute little fantasy romance. But I thought it was adorable, and people are like, this is not cozy fantasy, this is cozy romantasy. And I'm like, but it's still adorable, and I really related to the characters, especially the male character. It kind of reminded me of that other book called The Autumn Store Bookshop. I felt like it was similar to that, but also Autumn Store Bookshop is like 10 times more smutty. This one was just like so adorable. So basically, it's about a girl named Saphira, and the love interest name, the male main character, is Aiden. And basically, Saphira raises baby dragons in her little cafe, and she's struggling to, I think she's struggling to keep it open. And Aiden is a gardener, and he's trying to train his dragon better because he's struggling taking care of his dragon. Sorry, I'm just finishing the boba in my mouth. Sorry if that's TMI. So basically he seeks Saphira out at her cafe because he knows that she trains baby dragons. And since they are now, he's asking her to help him train his dragon, they obviously get closer and they start developing a romance. And I thought it was adorable. And that's basically all you need to know. But he struggles with like social anxiety. And at first, he like doesn't know how to approach her and how to talk to her. But then as they go on, I thought it was so freaking cute. So I don't know why people don't like this. I loved it. So I gave it, I believe, a 4.25. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I really liked it. I can't wait to read the other two books. So that's basically it. And then the other author that I met at my local Barnes and Noble was the author of Finding Her Edge, which is on Netflix. Her name is Jennifer Icopelli, and her newest book came out like back in February 3rd. And we went to the signing for Game Set Match, which is her new sports romance book. And basically this was so this is the next book that I finished. And this was like my first romance for February. This was actually a republished YA sports romance, and she made it into an adult romance. So it's Match Point #1, and then the second book comes out in June. But honestly, I don't know. I mean, I'm probably going to end up still reading it. It might be better than the first one. I didn't love this, though, because I couldn't really connect with the romance of the characters, to be honest. I only gave it a 3-star because, I met the author. Honestly, if I hadn't met the author, I might have lowered the rating. I think I gave it a 3.25. Basically, I felt like there was too many love interests for the main character. So the main character's name is Penny, and she's in she kind of has 3 different love interests, but basically from the get-go, you know pretty much who she's going to go after. Like, they sleep together during, like, the tennis matches, but they've never actually, like, went out or, like, made themselves official, and then they end up making themselves official. And she needs to be, like, she, like, pushes herself constantly to be, like, a better tennis player for her family so she can make them family. Make them money so they don't really have to work as much anymore because, she comes from a family that doesn't really have that much money. And she's very hard on herself, trying to train harder, and she feels like, what's his name again? I already forgot his name. Alex? Yeah, Alex is like a distraction to her playing a better game. So she doesn't really want to be with him. She's just, sleeping with him. So I just thought it was okay. I gave it a 3.25, and that's really it. I don't even know where my review is. It's right here. Yeah. It's just like I couldn't really connect to any of the romances in it because I felt like it was too short to like care more. So, but I still enjoyed it. Like, it was a fun time, but it wasn't like, oh my God, I love this. So it was just okay. But then I ended up reading way better romances throughout the month. I read a 5-star romance too, so I'm so excited to talk about that. But anyway, then after that, we went back to Red Queen to finish it, and that's when I was ready to go back to finish the 4th book, which is War Storm. I gave it a 4.5 because I actually thought this was going to be a 5-star. But basically in this one, Mare has to take down Maven, and she obviously falls in love with Cal, and they finally get together and everybody's happy, but also like then she becomes the Red Queen. But also, I believe Cal, again, is a silver, so they're not supposed to, be together. But there's, like, this one part that I still remember where Cal's like, let's not worry about, the consequences of what we're doing. Let's just be together. Like, basically, that's the gist of it, and I loved it. And then after that, there was a really big turning point in the book for me where I loved, like, everything that was happening, all the little battles that were happening. and then like Maven captures Mare in like a room, and then they have like their own battle together. Oh my god, that was crazy. That was really intense. And then at the end, Mare has to help defeat Maven, and you see whether or not there's a happy ending for everybody. So that's basically what happened in this book. I thought it was great. We did get a few perspectives in this book as well. I believe we still got Evangeline and Iris's, Mare's, Maven's, and Cal. So then we finally got Maven's perspective, and damn, some of his chapters were so chilling, because he is a diabolical mastermind. So it was really good. I gave it a 4.5. I thought it was going to be a 5-star because I don't know if I already said the rating. But it wasn't quite a 5-star because I thought more people were going to die at the end, and then only like 1 or 2 people did. And I was like, oh, that's a little anticlimactic. Like, of course I want everybody to have a happy ending, but also like, give me something. Sorry, I turned it down more because I'm already getting a headache from this freaking light because it's too bright. So anyway, that was that. I finally finished Red Queen. I finally read it, so I felt very accomplished after I finished that series. We still need to read Broken Throne, though, but after I read Warstorm, honestly, I didn't feel the need to go into Broken Throne right away, so I just decided to go into some new releases. So the next book that we read was Stolen Midnights by Catherine Quinn. Oh, this was so good. I loved this book. This was so much fun. The banter in this book was so good. I had such a fun time, and it was hysterical. And I'm so excited for the second book. Oh my god, the way that the first book left off, it was kind of similar to Thorn Season for me, though. But if you're a fan of Rose Bargain or Thorn Season, you need to read this book. It's like literally like the same kind of vibes. Oh, but it was so good. I loved the magic. I loved everything about this book. So I gave it a 4.5. Not quite a 5-star. But maybe after we read the second book, maybe it'll be a 5-star, but we'll see. So this one is about Damien and... what is the female's name? Ren. Of course, it's Ren. Everyone's named Ren. I swear to God. I just finished The Poet Empress today, and her name was Ren too. Literally, in almost every single fantasy book, the main female character's name is Ren or Rune. I just started another book, A Vow and Vengeance by Jacqueline Rodriguez. The main character's name, guess what her name is? Rune. So... bound to have, at least because of all these new fantasy releases that are coming out in 2026, we're going to have at least 3 books every month, or every other, 1 book a month that has a Ren or a Rune in it. So we already have 1 each this week because, like I said, we have a Rune in Vow of Vengeance. So anyway, what's his name again? Damien. Damien's, from the get-go that Damien's the one that steals Ren's locket from her. That's not a spoiler, but Ren doesn't know until obviously the end of the book. And again, that's not a spoiler because we, read the book to see whether or not Ren is going to find out and what she's going to think. But Damien, the way that he taunts her is just so fucking hilarious. I was laughing out loud so hard. So basically, let me just read a little bit of the synopsis. But I still loved this. Like, I could still describe it, but I just want to describe some of the magic system to you. It says, set in Andalay, a world where the ruling fates bestow gifts among the favored, a thief must join forces with the palace darling after he unwittingly steals a necklace with the power to change everything. Okay, right. So Damien has a really dark past, and he at first doesn't want to help Ren. He only purely wants, to get her gift and get her power. He doesn't really care that much about her. But then obviously he develops a romance with her. But it didn't feel forced. It felt so natural, and it was just so good. And Ren was such a powerful, badass character. Um, when Damien, a cold-hardened thief, oh wait, we already said that. The gift, a locket containing his own photo trophy. Oh, right. It's his own photo in it. He doesn't understand why his photo is in there. Once the locket is open, hidden truths unravel, ones that shed light on the ruthless ways of the upper-class society. Yearning for the three fates and the magical gifts they bestow, the lords of Andalay will go to any length to keep their power, including murder. Oh, it's so good. Brought together by destiny and fighting a temptation that neither understand, Ren and Damien navigate a seedy world where the truth can destroy not only their lives, but the city itself. So I'm so excited for the second book. That's basically all you need to know. I gave it a 4.5. I freaking loved it. Okay, next up, I read another new release. I was so excited for this book. This is probably my highly anticipated release for February. And that is Throne of Nightmares by Carrie Maniscalco. This is now, I believe, my 6th book by Carrie Maniscalco, because I read Kingdom of the Wicked trilogy back in, I believe, 2024. I cannot believe, I have to think back all the way back to 2024 now. But I think I read it back in March of 2024, and then I read Throne of the Fallen, and then the only book I read by her last year was Throne of Secrets, because that came out. Actually, that might have came out in September or October of 2024, and then she didn't have a release last year because Throne of Secrets was not very good. That was probably my least favorite Carrie Maniscalco book. So I had a feeling she took a little bit more time to write Throne of Nightmares because maybe she wasn't ready to release a book last year. I'm so glad they waited until February of 2026 for this book because I freaking loved this book. I gave it a 5-star. I thought this book was so much fun, but also dark at the same time. And I feel like that's a little hard to do, especially in romantasy, but I loved this. I thought it was so good. So I didn't think I was going to love Prince. So this is about Prince Sloth. So far we've had Envy in Throne of the Fallen, which is still my favorite book, romantasy book ever. It's my only 6-star romantasy book still. So she's I love her writing. And then Throne of Secrets, which was Gluttony, which again, I thought the smut just overtook the plot way too much. We know Gluttony is about overindulgence, but... And then the third one is obviously about Sloth, the Prince of Nightmares. So basically, it's called Prince of Nightmares because Sloth can basically access the main character's dreams. And they basically enter a dream world full of nightmares. And it's so good. Oh my God, it's so good. It was so creative the way that she did this. I'm so glad we didn't have the same plot where we have to go through hell and it was kind of very reminiscent of Kingdom of the Wicked in Throne of the Fallen or Throne of Secrets. Okay, my mom just texted me about watching Shrinking, so I gotta go, but I wanted to at least start filming it. So I think we already talked about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, we're on our 9th book. Not bad. Okay, bye. Okay, so hey there, guys. So I'm back, and I wanted to talk about all the rest of the books that I read in February. If I could speak English, that'd be great. So we left off with Throne of Nightmares by Carrie Maniscalco. And like I said, I gave this a 5-star. I just love this one. It was finally a dark romance fantasy, but also the reason why I love her writing so much is because she keeps up the fantasy plot so well, and also the chemistry between both of them I just thought was hysterical. I didn't instantly feel the attraction right away, but I thought the chemistry was there. And basically the main character's name, what is her name? Lore Brimstone. So Lore is a librarian, and she gets basically trapped into the dream world of Prince Sloth. And Prince Sloth, he is the demon of knowledge, of, um, you know, consuming all knowledge, all knowing. He thinks that he's the smartest out of all of his brothers, and he, wants lore so she can help him navigate the nightmares that they both now have to um overcome to save his realm. That's basically what happens. And I just really loved the banter, really loved the story of this one. The library is actually accessed by Sloth, and he is like the librarian master. And the library is like it's like this whole personality. And what's really funny is that he has legit negotiations with his library, and his library will be like, no, I don't want to do that. And I just thought it was so funny. And it was just such a fun, entertaining time. So I'm really excited for the next one. I'm not, honestly, I still have a feeling the next Prince is going to be Lust. Because at the end of Princes of Secrets, they were hinting lust quite a lot. At the end of this one, though, it really wasn't as obvious on who it's going to be next. Honestly, I think Pride is going to be last because we have 3 more princes now. We have Lust. We have, oh my God. Why can't I remember the other deadly sin? We have Gluttony, Lust, Sloth, Pride, Greed. So I think it's going to be Lust, then Greed, and then Pride. Because I think Pride has the biggest story and the biggest character arc that I think that she's going to end with Pride. I hope I'm right, because usually I'm not, but I think that's how it's going to go. It was just so good. I loved it. Okay, then next up, I read a couple of other new releases. And this one I just picked up totally randomly. This was like a mood read for me. So this was another book that was not on my radar. So I kind of read 3 books that weren't on my TBR this month. The 2 that I went to for the book signing, which was Baby Dragon Cafe and Game Set Match, and this one. So I still read 3 books that were kind of mood reading. And this one is called Domcom by Adriana Anders. I just wanted a fun, fluffy romance right around Valentine's Day, even though I don't have a Valentine, but honestly, I could care less if I have a Valentine or not, because as long as there's love in your life, that's what counts. You don't have to have a boyfriend or a girlfriend to consider somebody your Valentine. So anyway, I read this, and the reason why I picked this up is because I was actually at Barnes with 2 of my book besties, and I just picked this book up to my book bestie, Felicia, and I said, look, Felicia, I found our new buddy read for the month. And she's like, I can't add anything. And then she saw the actual cover. I was literally joking because of the title. And she's like, oh, God, you're hilarious. And then when Felicia left, my other friend is like, because she actually didn't say anything when I picked it up. She was just laughing. But then when Felicia left, because she had to go home, my other friend comes over and she's like, you know what? I think I'm going to purchase this book. And I was like, well, I guess I'm purchasing it too because I really wanted to read it. Honestly, I wanted to do it as a buddy read with her, but I ended up reading it faster anyway. So I finished this book in a day. And basically, this book is about a girl named Ray, and the guy's name is Grant. And Ray works at like this company. I forget what the company actually is. I think that they actually handle accounts for the Dom Club that Grant is working for. But Grant is also a like cybersecurity guy that basically comes in to Ray's job and helps her boss figure out who is like hijacking their system to like steal money. And that's basically like, it's a bit Love theoretically, because that's kind of, Love on the Brain, because that kind of was the plot of Love on the Brain by Ellie Hazelwood. But I just thought this was so fun. It was so funny. Um, so basically Ray is into like a dom kind of relationship, dom sub. So she becomes Grant's sub, and as he's working in the office, they develop, a contract where they are going to have a dom sub relationship, but they end up getting feelings for each other. And that's basically what this book is about. Ray is a huge like people pleaser. She never really, so that's why she likes the dom sub kind of relationship, because she likes that bit of like control for her, but she really enjoys it. But Grant wants to give her more than that, but also like Grant doesn't want to break her heart. So it was really fun. It was just a good time. So I gave it a 4.25 stars. Okay, next up, I read yet another new release. This actually came out on the same, actually, I think this came out the same day as Throne of Nightmares to be traditionally published, because this book actually came out back in July of 2025, but it just got traditionally published because it was so damn popular. So I really wanted to read it. So it's called Air of Illusion by Madeline Taylor. And this is book 1 in the Varen Isles series. And sorry, my Siri went off. What is it called? Varen Isles series. So basically, I gave this a 4.5 stars. I thought this was so good. Basically, this is about a girl named, I can never remember the names of these damn characters anymore. What is her name? Ivy. Her name is Ivy, and the male main character's name, basically he's Death. Okay, I just don't have like his actual name in the synopsis, so we're just gonna call him Death. So she is a slave to the current king that is the ruler of their land. But the king of their castle, he is not a full immortal. And basically, in this world, if you're not an immortal, you're basically like, below everybody else. But Ivy has abilities, and so does the king. But every time the king uses his abilities, it drains his power. But Ivy is bound to the king because her abilities exceed his, and he uses her for that reason. But also, he binds her to him because he does love her, but like in his own like twisted way. So he puts like a collar on her that she can't break free of. So Death actually comes in and asks the king to work with Ivy to get something that they need for the king. But mostly they need it so then the king doesn't get it, because if he gets it, he's going to be like all powerful. So that's basically what happens. Obviously, Ivy and Death end up forming a romance, but I thought the audiobook was so good for this, and I really thought the banter was well done. I really liked the voices too. But then there's it was a little bit predictable though. But not predictable in like an annoying kind of way. Like, the pacing was really good, and it was still really fun, and I still like was glued to the page. I like could not wait to see what happened. And then everybody says the last 50 pages of this book is so worth it, and the twist of this was actually great. I actually didn't really see it coming. And then I was like, oh, that makes sense. Like, it wasn't like Metal Slinger where I was like, oh, that's so dumb. Because the twist in that book was so stupid. But everybody's like, oh my god, the twist is like insane. And I thought the twist was just so dumb. Meanwhile, I'm still going to read the second book of that because that book is so popular. That one comes out in July. But this one, I thought the twist was great. So I'm not going to say any more. But yeah, I gave this a 4.5. I loved it. It was so good. Okay, and then next up, I finally read The Great Alone by Kristen Hanna. Finally read this book, you guys. I put off her books for so long. I think I'm going to take a break now after reading this book. But everyone has been pushing me to read this one by Kristen Hanna. So I finally read it. And this was my first 6-star read of the year. I loved this book, you guys. It is very sad though. So check a couple of trigger warnings because there are some sad topics in this book. So because like all of her books. So basically every single book that I've read from her now has made me cry because this one did make me cry a lot more than The Women. The only book that didn't make me cry by her was The Women because I didn't really feel as much towards it. I mean, it was still a great book, don't get me wrong, but out of all the books that I read from Kristen Hanna, that's the only one that hasn't made me cry. But it's still 5-star. So anyway, I loved this. So this one is about, what is the main character's name? Lenny. Her name is Lenny, and her parents, Cora and Ernst. And Ernst is a prisoner of war from Vietnam. So obviously the war really messed him up. Really bad. And this book, oh my God. Kind of like some of her characters and her plots are a little similar, but her storytelling and her fast-pacedness of you being glued to the page is unmatched. So that's why even though some of her characters might be like reused or character arcs or whatever, it just works every time. Like Lenny is a dorky girl that like doesn't really fit in at school. Same thing kind of like Firefly Lane where she wears like big glasses and she needs to find like a best friend and whatever. But she's been awkward most of her life because her dad is so messed up that he doesn't really know what she needs because, he's so mentally unwell. And he thinks because they have constantly moved around Lenny to say like, oh, we're going to get a fresh start. Everything will be better if we move because he abuses Cora, his wife. Because, since he has so many mental issues, he thinks once they move, they can get a fresh start and they'll be fine. So what he decides to do is move his family to Alaska. And Lenny's like, why the hell would I move there? We're going to be so alone. That's why it's called The Great Alone. But there's a lot. Oh my God, there's so many things that happen in this book that are just so sad. I'm just like thinking about it. So I don't know if I could talk about it too long because it is really sad. Yeah. So he moves them there thinking that it's going to fix their family and fix him. But it's mostly like him that needs to be fixed because her mom and her live in fear of her dad because he beats Cora senseless. It's really, really sad. Some of those parts were really hard to read. So yeah, definitely I loved this book. So since they move out into Alaska, they really are in the Great Alone because it's not just them being so lonely, because Lenny ends up being incredibly lonely there. She ends up like saying that this is like the only real home she's actually had though, because this is the longest that she's stayed put in one place. Oh my God, this book is rough. So they move there and then they realize that they're away from everything. There's no even police near them. The only protection that they have are their own guns. They have to stock up for the winter, like hunting animals, and if they don't, they will starve to death. Like, and you can't go anywhere in the wintertime because you're snowed in the whole winter. And if you go outside, you will freeze to death. So, talk about depressing. It was just so good. I'm not really gonna say anything else because you kind of need to just experience this book for yourself. But her writing is incredible, and she doesn't really have many one-star reviews for a reason. I think she has like maybe one. There's like 6,000. Uh-huh. They're just, yeah. Some of these reviews I don't even believe when I read her reviews because people are just dumb. I don't really believe them. So anyway, next up, I read another 5-star read. I loved this book. I read this in my TBR elimination video, which you guys will see. I think you'll see this before this video. I think I posted it to yesterday when I put up this video. So the next book that I read was Red City by Mary Lou. I finally read this book. It came out back in, I believe, like October. Yeah, October. You guys, I loved this book. This book made me cry too. This book was sad, but just like all the writing of this was so well done. It was so beautifully written. So it really is The Godfather meets the Magicians. That's what it says in the first sentence. So it's the first book in the New Alchemist series. And this book is about Sam. And Sam is the main male character, I believe. Yeah, and the female main character... What is her name? No, Sam is the female main character. Ari is the male main character. So basically, Sam and Ari are childhood friends. And they don't realize, like, that they're in love because obviously they're children. I love that they didn't, make it like childhood friends to lovers. But they were, but like they weren't like in love when they were like, because they didn't understand their feelings then, obviously. So they are on the two opposite sides of the city, of the Red City. So we have the Grand Central and the Lumines. The Lumines, I mean. So it says Grand Central and Lumines have been balanced on violence. So they like hate each other. And the only things that they care about is like the drug that they take. I think it's like a powder or a pill. I can't remember which one it is. That enhances like all of their abilities that they have. And Sam is like one of the most powerful alchemists out there, and so is Ari. But Sam and her mother, oh, there's so much that happens in this book. It's so goddamn good. Sam and her mother has always been struggling to support Sam and give her a good life. And goddamn, she didn't really raise her right. Basically, her mother works as an alchemist when she has her baby, Sam. And she has to like leave her in her apartment to go work. She can't afford someone to watch her baby. So she just leaves Sam in the apartment for hours. So it's kind of really fucked up, but also like she thinks that that's going to protect her. And I'm like, no, like maybe you should have had like some kind of, I don't think they had any family to take care of her. So yeah, that happened. But her mother hates alchemists because something traumatic happens to her at her job. But Sam ends up growing up to be an alchemist to work for I believe it's the Grand Central, which, all they do is care about power. So they will kill anyone to get their power. Anyone that stands in their way. Or anyone that they need to eliminate, they will get rid of. So Sam ends up working for them, and she starts taking people's lives. So there's that. And Ari is a very powerful syndicate's brightest rising stars. And can I speak? Brightest rising stars. And his ability is he can control anybody's emotions. So he can control like desires, he can control sadness, happiness, anything like that. Like as soon as he walks into a room, he can control any narrative, any situation. You know, if he wants to have sex, he can control all of that too. So, but Ari has always been in love with Sam. But they decide that Ari needs to leave Sam when they're younger. Sam always thinks that they're going to be together, but he leaves and they don't see each other for 5 years. And then when they're reunited, she sees him at a party, but they are both very different people at that point. And I'm going to leave it there. This book was incredible. One of my favorite reads that I read in February. I have a top 3. It was Great Alone, Red City, and then there's another one that I'm about to talk about. But Red City was fantastic. Actually, there's 4. Because I think I had 5 stars in February. So I had quite a bit of 5 stars in February. I still haven't had a 5-star in March. The one I'm reading right now might be, but it might be like a 4.5. Because The Poet Empress was almost a 5-star, but I gave it a 4.75. Spoiler alert, but yeah. And I just finished that yesterday, but it was really good. So anyway, the next book that I read was another book that I wanted to get off my TBR that's been on my TBR for a while. And then after that, I think I just read new releases. No, there was one more. But this was the last like physical book that's been on my TBR for a while that I read in February. So I think I still read 6 books in February, and I think I'm going to read 5 this month. I'm about to read another one tomorrow. That's been on my TBR for a while. So the next one I read, finally, was All the Colors of the Dark by Chris Whitaker. And I just wanted like another thriller, and this is the 3rd book, I believe, that I read in the TBR elimination video. I wanted at least one. Did I say elimination right? I wanted at least one more in that video. That was one that wasn't a new release, because I read 3 new releases in that video, so I wanted one that wasn't. So basically, this was about a whole bunch of different characters in Missouri, and a guy is accused of being a serial killer, killing and raping girls. And there's a lot of buildup in this book, and I felt like this book was a little bit too long, but it was still very well written, but I feel like it could have been like 100 pages shorter, but I still really enjoyed it, and I understand why so many people like it. It did creep me out a couple of times, but I do think it was a little bit long-winded, but I don't really like talking about thrillers too long, because I don't want to spoil it. I gave it a 4.5 stars. But basically, it's about different kinds of obsessions, not just about, serial killers. And also there's missing people, missing girls in this that they have to find. And also, like, one of the characters saves one of the girls, but also it might be his undoing. So that's what happens in this book. And that's all I'm going to say. I also don't really remember too much of what happened in it, because I was kind of losing interest a little bit because it was so long, but the chapters were so short. It says, when the daughter of a wealthy family is targeted, the most unlikely hero emerges. Patch, a local boy with one eye who saves the girl, and in doing so leaves heartache in his wake. Patch and those who love him soon discover that the line between triumph and tragedy has never been finer, and that their search for answers will lead them to truths that could mean losing one another. So, it's about his love for for the girl that he saves. And he basically like has to keep her safe from the serial killer again because she's afraid that he's going to come after her again. And also like she doesn't want to report it to the police because she feels like that'll get her in trouble. So that's basically what happened. So it was still really good. But I feel like there was a lot of details that we didn't really need. Because, like, with thrillers, you know, you have to keep it bingeable, but also at the same time, like, I couldn't stop reading it. So I'm kind of conflicted about it, but also at the same time, it was amazing. So, yeah. Take that for what you will. Hold on one second. Okay, next up, I listened to one of my favorite books that I read in February. I ended up just listening to the entire audiobook of this because the audiobook voices were so fucking good for this. I didn't plan to listen to this all the way through. And it was just such a short book, but oh my God, this is so worth the hype. This book was beautifully written and also so beautifully tragic. And this one was also about abuse. So again, check your trigger warnings because, yeah. So I read The Bright Years by Sarah Damoff, and this was my buddy read with Felicia for the month. I don't think we read any other books together in February. Game Set Match was the other one. That one was totally unplanned. But since she had went with me to the book signing, we decided to read that book like a week after we went to the book signing. So we ended up just impromptu reading it together. So this book is about Ryan and Lillian Bright, which it's called The Bright Years. But also there's another reason why it's called The Bright Years, but you're just going to have to read it in order to find out. Also, it's funny how she uses bright years, like the word bright, in this book, when also Shelby Van Pelt, who wrote Remarkably Bright Creatures, also uses bright in her title, and how she uses Remarkably Bright Creatures throughout the book. I just realized that they both use bright in the title and interpret it and have it have multiple different meanings. So take that for what you will. But you're going to have to read the book in order to understand. So it says 8 hours, 50 minutes, one family, 4 generations, a secret son, a devastating addiction. A Texas family is met with losses and surprises of inheritance, but they're unable to shake the pullback toward each other in this big-hearted family saga. Ryan and Lillian Bright are deeply in love, recently married, and now parents to a baby girl, Georgette. But Lillian has a son she hasn't told Ryan about, and Ryan has an alcohol addiction he hasn't told Lillian about. So Georgette comes of age watching their marriage rise and fall. So basically, all Lillian wants is to have a baby with Ryan because she loves Ryan, but she never told Ryan about her previous baby that she had from her previous... I don't know if she was married before, but... So, and also her Georgette doesn't know about her half-brother either. So it basically goes through the turmoils of what Lillian goes through being married to Ryan, and Ryan developing a alcohol addiction. And his father was an alcoholic. And he struggles to keep up with paying for the house and for the family. So he ends up one night doing something to Lillian that obviously is totally unforgivable, that he just up and leaves them. He just leaves one night. So she's left to raise Georgette on her own. And Georgette grows up, and she grows up basically hating her father. And then the third part is about whether or not Ryan can make amends with Georgette. Make her, love him again. But, Georgette could never, really hate her dad. But something happens in the middle of the book that is so devastating, so surprising, so shocking. But death is shocking always. It's never predictable. So it made total sense. But at the same time, it was just so shocking and sad. And then the whole third part of the book with uh Ryan trying to get Georgette's redemption and to be back in her life. I cried throughout the entire part 3. The entire part. It was so devastatingly sad, but it was so beautiful, and it was one of the best books that I've read this year. But also, like, since it's general fiction, I'm not surprised. But I think I've only read like 4 general fiction books this year, which is The Women, Deep Cuts, which Deep Cuts was awful, The Great Alone, and Bright Years. And Bright Years, I think, it was my favorite besides The Great Alone. I didn't rate it 6 stars though, because it is very sad. Even though Great Alone is sad too, it might be a 6 star because I just thought it was such a phenomenal book. But check your trigger warnings with this one because there are some hard parts to read. But yeah, I was freaking sobbing in the last part. But the way that the dad talks about the daughter in the last part, I just have to read this quote. This is one of the best quotes I've read all year. It says, "There is goodness ahead of you. I know this because I know you. You don't hide from pain or from play. Your joy is obstinate, yet you are brave enough to break. You have open eyes and an open heart, a rare combination in a world where one of those usually closes the other. You are your mother's daughter, who is her mother's daughter. You and you will always be radiant." And when I read that the first time, like, I was sobbing, and then when I tried to reread it, I was sobbing. So just such a beautifully written book. It was so freaking good. I loved it. Okay, next up, I went into a couple of other new releases. I think I just read new releases again. This was also these were the 3 books that I read being snowed in with my readathon. So that book is coming. That vlog is coming after this video. So I read 3 books in that video, and the first one was Conform by Ariel Sullivan. And this is a new dystopian book, adult dystopian, but I didn't really love this book. I don't know, it's just, it was okay. Yeah, so basically this was about a girl named Emmeline, and her mate's name is Colin. And it's not in the way that there's like fated mates, which I think is so overused at this point. It's even being used in the book that I'm reading right now. And I'm like, how many times do we have to use fated mates in romantasy? But anyway, basically their society strives for perfection, and the only way that they can mate and have perfect mates is if they have no flaws. And Emmeline has like this flaw in her eye that makes her imperfect. But Colin decides that he wants to mate with her. And Emmeline is very shocked as to why he wants her as his mate. Because she's like, he's not supposed to mate with me because, I'm flawed. So why the hell does he want me? And the only purpose for them mating is to create is to procreate and create perfect babies and children. So Colin is part of the alum, though, and the alum are ruled by an elusive. It says centuries after a catastrophic World War nearly decimated the human population, a city arose from the ashes ruled by the elusive and technologically advanced group called the Alum. So that's basically what this book is about. There's also another guy that ends up helping Emmeline to see like what the Confederation is up to, because she always thought, if she did this, she would be able to survive, because usually imperfect people are killed and they're considered like abominations and like cast out by society. She was casted out by her own family because they thought that she was, flawed, she has a defect. That's what it's called, a defect. That, they don't want her. So so basically Hall, that's his name, Hal, not Hall. One of the resistance leaders, as she draws closer to both Colin and Hal, when I was saying Hall, the alum exercise their power in increasingly brutal ways, forcing Emmeline to question everything, most of all whether she'll have to give up her heart and even her life to stop them. I actually did read a lot of this physically because, again, but I ended up returning it because I didn't think it was great. I gave it a 3.75, but this was like the only physical book that I read in that readathon video. Because then I read a book on my Kindle and then I listened to an audiobook. So I just thought it was predictable, and I thought that Emmeline was a little bit annoying at times, but again, the way that it ended, I am interested in picking up the next book. I kind of feel like the same way about this book that I do about the Bloodwing Academy series, and the next book in that is coming out in 2 days, and I'm 100% reading that as soon as it comes out, is that it's keeping me interested enough to see where the series goes. And I do think that this series does have potential to be even better in the second book. So we'll see what happens. It was still entertaining. It just wasn't like the best thing that I've, ever read. It was just okay. But it wasn't a bad book. Like, it still kept me entertained. But the next book that I read was so good. I really enjoyed this book. And that is We Who Will Die by Stasia Stark. I thought that this was going to be like a potential book club pick. So, I think I'm going to stop because I'm getting tired of talking again. So I'm just going to film the rest of this tomorrow. I think we only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We only have 5 more books to talk about, though. Yeah, we'll film it tomorrow. It's late. Bye. Okay, so hey there, guys. Let's finally finish up talking about the books that I read in February. I love how I took 3 separate clips to actually film this, but then we can actually post it tomorrow. So like I said, the next book that I read in February was, excuse me, We Who Will Die by Stasia Stark. And this is the first book in the Empire of Blood series. And this is actually my first Stasia Stark book because, again, this is the start of a new series. So I don't feel as overwhelmed when it's only a first book in a series. Like, for me, I like starting series that way because then I can read it with everybody else as opposed to, like, being overwhelmed by, like, 5 or 6 books in a series that I haven't read yet. So, anyway, this book, I would like to read her Court, Cruel and Lovely series, but I've heard that it's not as good as it goes on, so who knows if I'll read it or not. So this is about a girl named, what is her name? Arvel, and an ancient vampire created by the god Umbros, which is, what is his name? Why does it never say, like, the actual names in the synopsises sometimes? So the emperor rules, the vampires, and she has to participate in this set of trials to basically, I just want to read a bit of the synopsis to describe it better. So it says, life in the Perilous Thorn district is a constant battle for Arvel and her younger brothers. And the vampire standing on her doorstep is about to turn their world upside down. So basically he recruits her to compete in these deadly trials. Faced with an unthinkable choice, Arvel makes a magically binding vow to kill the Emperor, an ancient vampire created by the god Umbros. But first, she must enter the Sunderling, an arena where only the fastest, strongest, and deadliest survive long enough to be selected for the Empire's elite guard. So once she's selected for that, then, you know, her life gets a lot better. Nobody, like, decides to, like, kill her, and she can, like, do better things for her family. She quickly draws the ire of the Primus, the powerful figure charged with protecting the Emperor. But the vampire under the armor is the last person Arvel expects to encounter in the Emperor's court. With her brother's lives in the balance, Arvel has no choice but to ally with the man who once shattered her heart. So, they've had a sleep. Sorry, it doesn't matter. I put my phone on sleep because, like, people are annoying me already. And with the Emperor's sadistic son, Rorik, two vampires whose motives are impossible to pin down. So basically in the first half of the book, it's very Hunger Games-ish, but it's very fast-paced, and it keeps me intrigued as to where the plot was going. And then the whole second half of the book, it's still a little bit Hunger Games-ish, but the story, like, really picks up with Rorik and Arvel, because obviously Arvel falls in love with the other brother. Which, again, I don't know why his name is leaving me right now. I don't know why his name isn't in the synopsis, but Rorik's is. But basically, Arvel has to work with Rorik in order to kill the Emperor. And obviously, Rorik and his brother are both the Emperor's sons. And, you know, Rorik wants to kill the Emperor to fulfill his line of succession to be Emperor. So I thought it was really fun, fast-paced, a good time. I have more thoughts about it in my reading vlog for my readathon. This was the second book that I read in that video. So I gave this a 4.25. I'm really excited to see where the series goes with the second book. So that's all I'm going to say. It was just a fun, fast-paced time. I read this on my Kindle, and it was just really fun. Okay, then next up, I listened to another audiobook, and this was the third book that I decided to read in the reading vlog, the readathon that I did, and that is Alice Feeney's His and Hers. So this is now the second Alice Feeney book that I've read this year, and my fourth book that I've read by Alice Feeney. Or is it my fourth, because I read Rock, Paper, Scissors, Beautiful, Ugly, and then her new release this year, which is My Husband's Wife, which came out in was it January? Yeah, January. And then this one, His and Hers, I read this because I really wanted to watch the show on Netflix. So I'm like, I really wanted to read the book first. The book is way better than the show, to be honest. Because they changed a lot of things that pissed me off in the show. But it was still better than the adaptation of Firefight Lane. But anyway, I gave this book a 5-star. This was I believe my first 5-star thriller of the year. I don't think I had any other 5-star thrillers this year so far. I don't think so. No. I don't see another 5-star thriller here. And I always end up listening to her audiobooks now because her audiobooks are always so good with the voices. So, yeah, it's my first 5-star thriller this year. And basically, this is about a couple that used to be married, but then they get divorced for multiple reasons. I don't really want to spoil it from the book. I don't know if they say it in the synopsis. No. But basically, there is a line of serial killings that occur in her town when this couple gets older. And she grows up in this town, and so does Jack. which they don't really describe their background when they're younger. They only really go into Anna's past, not really Jack's. They only really go into Jack's past with Anna when they're married. Um but like some dark things happen where they end up splitting up. Um and Anna does move away from the town after that occurs, and she doesn't want to come back, and her mother still lives in the town. And some stuff happens in the book that they didn't really describe in the show. So this is your sign to read the book. And Jack is the private investigator, police detective. I think he's a police detective, actually, not private investigator, for the town. And these lines of serial killing murders ends up making her come back to the town to see her mother and also to find out what the hell is happening to these girls that are being killed. Murdered. But in the book, she actually gets pushed out of her position. This happens in the first 20 pages of the book, and they changed it in the show. So in the book, she gets pushed out of her anchor position on the show because the woman that is actually the anchor, she left for 2 years to raise her children, and then she comes back and she's like, I'm back. I'm here to do my job again. So Anna has to leave, and the only reason why they bring her back is because she's going to be covering these serial killing murders. But honestly, she doesn't even want to go back to the town because of things that occurred in her childhood, because the set of friends that she had were honestly, mostly every single childhood girlfriend that she had was a pretty bad influence except for one girl. And I think that they kind of changed it in the show too on how her storyline was, and also how they end up having their conflict later on. They changed that in the show too. So that just hate when they change things too much, because it kind of that's why I'm so glad I read the book for this first, because the book was so goddamn good. And they had this murderer's POV in the book where they're disguising their voice. And I thought I had recognized the voice, that because it sounded high pitched, so I thought it was it was who I thought it was. But it turned out it wasn't, because Alice Feeney's really good at that. So basically in the show, she gets put on these serial killing murders because they think that this is going to be a great thing for their network for her to be featured. So they changed that too. But anyway, this was really good. I'm not going to say anything else because it's a thriller, so you can find out for yourself. Just read the book. But it was really, really good. That was definitely my favorite Alice Feeney book that I read since Beautiful Ugly. I think that her older work is better, even though Beautiful Ugly was the most recent release that she came out with in 2025. I thought that was way better than My Husband's Wife. And then I read my most unexpected favorite book of February, and my favorite romance that I read in February, actually. And I wasn't even going to read this book because I honestly felt like giving up on this author at this point, because I have read 3 other books by them. And the last book that I had read by them, I actually enjoyed the most out of the 3 that I've read. And I'm talking about B.K. Borison. So I had read Love Light Farms, First Time Caller, and Good Spirits. And I really enjoyed Good Spirits. And I've said this before about her writing, is that I enjoy the first 50 or 60% of her books, and then they usually go downhill for me after that. So since I didn't love First Time Caller, I wasn't sure I was going to read this book, but I decided to start reading And Now Back to You by B.K. Borison. Oh my god, you guys, this was fantastic. It was so freaking funny, so much fun. I gave this book a 5 stars. My first 5 star by B.K. Borison Why is it that even though she came out with two books last year and she's coming out with two books this year with this one and the second book in Good Spirits, so she still be banging out books every year. This one was so much better than First Time Caller, and like I've said before, the first like 60% of First Time Caller gave me serious 5-star feelings. But the male main character ended up pissing me off on how like needy and self unconfident he was. Like there's nothing wrong with an insecure unconfident man, but it starts to get a little bit annoying when 80% into the book you still can't admit whether or not you want them. But in this was like the perfect amount of like found family aspect, but also like them being there for each other was just so sweet. So basically, Jackson is the guardian for his siblings, and like his parents are really never there for his children. It's kind of similar to like, I mean, not his children, his siblings. It's like kind of similar to Unsteady or Next to, the hell is it called? Next of Kin, where like the sibling is the guardian for the child, not the parents, because the parents are like very unreliable. They have like an addiction, they're an alcoholic or child abuser, something like that. So in this one, Jackson has to take care of his family. And Delilah, why can't I remember what she's done for her family? Anyway, with Delilah, she works for the local news network and she is the weather girl on the network. And Jackson is one of the like meteorologists, and they're both meteorologists actually, and they're both like have this rivalry in the network on like who is going to be the better meteorologist. But they end up being forced to, work together more. And they end up developing a romance. And the way that they develop the romance in this book is so fucking funny. But also it feels so natural in this book that I literally felt like I was reading a rom-com movie. But like, I don't know. This book got me. It was so funny. It was so fun. I didn't feel like it was dragging. I never wanted it to end. Unlike First Time Caller, I felt like that book was a trek to get through. This one was the total opposite. But Delilah has always dealt with like sexism in the workplace because her boss was so mean to her. But then she ended up redeeming, he redeemed himself at the end, when he, wasn't such an asshole. And also Jackson like backs her up like no matter what, even though they really didn't like each other at first, they end up developing, feelings for each other. And he ends up, standing up for her, even though he is very nervous to do that because he doesn't want to compromise his position, or he always has had trouble standing up for people because obviously of his past. So it was just so cute. So there's like this like 100-year storm where basically it's going to be like the worst storm of the 21st century where they're going to be like super snowed in. So the head of the network sends them to the Snowden blizzard location and they're forced to, stay together. And there's like this one part where they had booked 2 different rooms and then one of the rooms was canceled. Of course, like that's such a typical romance trope as well. They did that in His and Hers as well, where they canceled the room for her and her like friend one night, her friend. No pun intended. And she says that, oh, I'll just go sleep across the street, and it's like a really shitty motel. And he's like, no, you need a toilet. You're staying with me. It's just like, it was so goddamn cute. So I loved it. I gave it a 5 stars. So, yeah, it was great. I'm not going to say any more because I feel like it spoils it, but you need to read it if you were thinking about it. It's crazy. Like with some of these romance authors, with Carly Fortune and now BK Borison, if I didn't decide to read their most recent releases, I would have never read their books again, because I felt the same way about Carly Fortune, because I was not going to read One Golden Summer. And then that became my favorite book by Carly Fortune. And that's like everybody's favorite book by Carly Fortune because it's so goddamn good. And then BK Borison comes out with this banger that I'm like, okay. But I've been seeing a little bit mixed reviews about Carly Fortune's new release. I think it comes out in May. So we'll see about that one. But anyway, the second to last book that I read in February was The Everlasting by Alex E. Haro. I've been seeing this book basically everywhere. And this is about Owen telling the story of Una Everlasting. And basically Una Everlasting is a eternal immortal soldier. And she dies time and time again, and he has to witness her death every single time she dies. So it's a little similar to Our Infinite Fates, but it's not where they have to kill each other constantly. It's that he has to witness her dying, so he can never truly be with her, but obviously they love each other. But the way that this was told in like a once upon a time fairy tale kind of setting and writing style, even though it was a very tragic tale, was so beautifully written. So I really enjoyed this. I gave it another 4.25 stars. Yeah, it was really good. I don't really have anything else to say. I think that this book is so worth the hype. I'm so glad I finally read my first Alex E. Haro book. I really need to read Once and Future Witches still, which I still own on my TBR cart. It was just really good. I enjoyed it a lot. It's a really short book, and I believe it's a standalone fantasy. So if you're looking for like a really easy standalone fantasy, I think this is your guy. And then the last book that I read in February was A Stage Set for Villains by Shannon J. Spahn. This book has been making its rounds everywhere, so I was like, I need to know what the hype is about, so I read it. And I read Everlasting and A Stage Set for Villains both physically. And basically, this is about a girl named Riven. And she is in the underworld with the mythical Greek and Roman gods or something. I'm not really sure if it's Greek or Roman. And she basically competes in a playhouse where the playhouse rules are you play with different players, basically in hell. And you are competing to say your script properly, and if you don't say your script properly, then you could be killed. And it's basically like it's not really a set of trials, but more so like they just have to survive in hell, no matter like what they have to do, like to play their part, to fulfill their role. And they can't really drift from the script, because if you don't perform on stage or perform anytime you're supposed, because if you drift off script, you can be killed. So it was really fun. I had a great time. It was, again, a very fast-paced read, but I felt like it was a little bit young for me, even though it was discussing darker themes, since it was talking about like basically being desensitized to death, like on who lives and who dies in the underworld and in hell, basically. So it says, desperate for answers, she infiltrates the competition. There she finds Jude, which, again, every male character in fantasy books are named Jude, or Caden, or Kate, or some kind of K or Kane or something like that. Can I speak English? There she finds Jude, the Playhouse's brilliant, merciless lead player, whose charm is as dangerous as his craft, and strikes a deadly bargain to save her life. But with time running out and the Playhouse's secrets unraveling into a disturbing picture, Riven faces a grim possibility she might not be the hero of her story after all. In fact, she may be the villain, because the Playhouse doesn't just tell stories, it rewrites them, and Riven's might end in blood. So, yeah, it was really fun. I gave it a 4.25 stars. I thought it was really good, and I think it's worth the hype, and I'm really excited for the movie. And yeah, that is it, you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. So those were all the books that I read in February this month. Um, and I'm already on a roll in March, and I think I'm gonna finish my eighth book tonight, which is insane. But this is my second full month of being unemployed, so I'm still collecting unemployment from Apple, so I'm doing good. So please like and subscribe. Follow me on my Instagram at TBW819 and check out my TikTok and my Goodreads in the description box below. And let me know what your favorite book was you read this month, or if you read any of these, or if any of these are on your radar. Let me know. And I hope you guys have a great day and keep reading. Bye.